top-level play from these fellas.
Yeah, this is perfect because I actually got to talk to Pedro earlier today throughout the day and see how he was feeling here. If my memory serves me correctly, we are going to be seeing another Rapid Strike Urshifu deck on stream, working with some of those guys in the European region on this list, and have seen a lot of success with it. And it's a good archetype for a reason, right? We've seen how strong this is, and it has a few really interesting cards as well. They haven't taken the same exact 60 cards. They've updated this list. They've put more games in with it. They've had time to develop, say, hey, this worked, this didn't work. Let's see the copies. Let's see what exactly is good in this archetype, in this list. And it looks like that kind of has been the big takeaway. The changes have so far served them well. We've seen how successful they've been on stream and off stream with this Rapid Strike deck, paired with some of those fun attackers as well, like the Galarian Moltres, and even the Medicham, which we didn't get a chance to talk about, is a key card in a lot of these matchups to take that extra turn, an effect we don't see a lot in the Pokemon trading card game.
That Yoga Loop attack, placing 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon, and if it takes a knockout, you get to skip your opponent's turn. An incredibly powerful effect, like you said, something we don't see too often. It's very difficult to set those plays up, but when you can, it is very, very strong. Pedro is playing a really interesting card in his list here. The Eldegoss from Evolving Skies, allowing you to search your deck for up to 2 energy of different types and put them into your hand. Extremely useful when you're playing multiple energy types, but you are committing a lot of deck space to a 1/1 line, and then also that is a bench spot that won't be something like a Sobble for you.
Yeah, and the basic as well, the Gossifleur has that call for family attack and can get those Pokemon out of the deck and put them onto your bench. Sobble does a good job as well. It can grab pretty much all of your main attacker and key Pokemon to get into play, but it can't grab anything like the Snorlax, or can't grab a Hoopa. It can't grab anything that is a non-Rapid Strike Pokemon. So that's kind of where it comes in key as well as a nice set-up Pokemon. And of course, Eldegoss being able to grab energies out of the deck pairs very nicely with that Galarian Moltres. You don't need to really get them in the discard pile and then combo with a Clara. You can just go ahead and say, hey, here's the energies. I grab them out of my deck, and I already have the Moltres. I have plenty of ways to find it in Quick Ball or drawing into it, or even, I believe, other options as well. There's plenty to go through in this list. And yeah, both these players' lists are pretty similar. I'm not sure if it's the exact same 60, but they are a lot of similarities, so maybe these players working together and trying to work on this archetype, see what cards are working, and it's kind of one of those unfortunate situations where you've been testing with your friend all week, you've been putting in a lot of time, and then when you don't want to hit each other, when there's plenty of other players that have a similar record than you, luck takes its course and you kind of have to battle it out.
I'm excited to see this match. Neither of these guys has Manaphy in the list. That was a key card we saw from Tord in the Urshifu Mirror on round 1. And these guys are setting out the prize cards. Snorlax in the prizes could be a little unfortunate. Bird Keeper as well is a pretty important one for Fabien, but as long as he's able to get those cards quickly, it's not too bad. Pedro did prize one of the 2 copies of Rapid Strike Urshifu V. That could definitely be an issue as well if the first one gets knocked out quickly.
Yeah, it's really going to come down to who is able to put that pressure on first, who's able to really apply it. And with no Manaphy, like you said, it can kind of just be a G-Max Rapid Flow frenzy of throwing these attacks in and out and in and out. But it's really going to be a battle of who can control those resources, who can apply the pressure, and more importantly, who can really route that game out in a way that makes sense, that is applicable. As here we go, we are getting ready to go into game number 1 of Swiss round 3. Sobble starts for both players, as it looks like Fabien will be able to start things off here. Is going to be able to go ahead and level ball right away out of the deck, find something like that Sobble. We already see the Eldegoss in hand, so there is technically a route in which you do get the Gossifleur and put it into play. But it looks like Sobble already going again and getting fanned to the top of the deck, wants to get that down, wants to get set up, and this is what you want in this mirror match. The first person to take knockouts is favored generally in the Pokemon trading card game. There's not a lot of comeback mechanics we have currently in the standard format, so with low disruption and with high damage output, putting pressure on first is a key. I cannot stress that enough.
Absolutely, especially in this mirror match when neither player has Manaphy. Fabien is definitely going to be looking for an Urshifu and a energy to put down onto it so that he's able to threaten the turn 2 G-Max Rapid Flow, and doesn't have either of those things, chooses to pass it over to Pedro, who has not too bad of a hand with the Sobble in the active. Of course, Keep Calling, an excellent option for this deck on turn 1 when you're going second.
Yeah, missing that Urshifu V is a big hit because this opens the door up to Pedro now to have the first crack at a G-Max Rapid Flow or even a Gale Thrust down the line depending on the routes of play. Has the level ball, I think just considering, do I want to play it here? Maybe just keep calling and guarantee myself some Drizziles the following turn, but I'm just going to go ahead and get another Pokemon out of the deck. You can fill your bench up now with this keep calling. It's got to feel good to get down all your guys on turn 1, get them all into play, and all set up as just going ahead and checking through. Top level players want to make sure they know what are in the prize cards, what they will not have access to. I believe for Pedro had prized that, Cheryl. Which could be a key card here later on in the matchup as and this is a card that is very solid in these matchups where you are not taking these one-hit knockouts back and forth. You're sort of applying pressure, setting up math, maybe going ahead and Gale Thrusting, and then combining that with something like a quick shooting to set up the math so that a G-Max Rapid Flow takes the knockout. And that's where Cheryl can come in, especially after you've used G-Max Rapid Flow and you have no energy on. You pretty much just get to heal it all up for free.
Pedro uses Keep Calling, can grab 3 Rapid Strike Pokemon from the deck, put them directly onto the bench. Level Ball did grab the Gossifleur, so Pedro will value setting up the evolution there right away, the Eldegoss, and gets the Urshifu, gets a Remoraid as well as a Sobble, and has a pretty solid hand if I saw it correctly. A Quick Ball, a Level Ball, and if this Sobble gets knocked out, a Cynthia's Ambition was in the hand as well.
Yeah, and this hand is excellent for Fabien. I believe has 3 Drizzile in this hand already, so can just kind of start to chain these shady dealings, grab these trainer cards out of the deck, because there's the first one coming down. Grabbing any trainer out of the deck. I have to imagine there's got to be some way to get a Urshifu down, but look at that. There's the Avery to the top of the deck, a card we don't see a lot. It not only draws you cards, but more importantly, limits that bench down to 3, and now Pedro's got to make an important decision of what do I value my bench, and because of that sort of overextension of filling the bench up, you obviously want to get set up, but it's going to cost Pedro here tenfold.
Yeah, Pedro is going to have a tough choice. I think Gossifleur probably has to be the first one, and that is what Pedro chooses to get rid of, but you don't want to lose a Sobble, especially if Fabien, well, I guess Fabien's not threatening a KO this turn, so you're not worried about the active getting KO'd. You want to hang on to the Remoraid for sure, because Octillery's Rapid Strike Search is so crucial for this deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Finding any Rapid Strike card, limited to once per turn, but that's sort of all you need with this. More importantly, it is your consistent way to search out Rapid Strike energy, which this deck can really lack, as there's the Quick Ball. Going to go ahead and find that Hoopa, and this is where we could see some quick pressure here from Fabien. If he's able to also set up an Urshifu, he accomplishes everything he wants, right? Gets the Hoopa down, gets the knockout, and gets set up. There is the next Shady Dealings, going to be able to grab another trainer out, and we see how explosive Fabien's start is, able to grab all of these trainers, grab the Pokemon out of the deck, draw cards, get these attackers powered up. Shady Dealings makes this deck possible.
This is an amazing start from Fabien, and Fabien's playing incredibly quickly. Throwing Drizziles in play left and right, ready to get Urshifu down as well. The Hoopa here will actually be able to get that knockout on the Sobble, provided Fabien can find a scoop-up net, and that is a great way to put on a ton of pressure to Pedro. Pedro would only have 1 Sobble in play. This turn, Fabien can effectively take 3 Pokemon out of play, thanks to the Avery and thanks to the KO coming as well.
Yeah, discarding that bench is such a crucial effect on that supporter card, and Fabien's not done yet. It's got the level ball here for a Sobble. I have to wonder, do you really put that down, or do you value getting that Urshifu into play? But it can be scary facing down an opposing Urshifu V that can apply a lot of pressure, but there is the pivoting option in Scoop Up Net, recycles that Drizzile to just utilize it again on the 3rd bench Sobble, and is going to find yet another trainer card. There hasn't even been a supporter card played yet this turn.
What? Played the Avery, right?
Oh, Avery, my bad. Yeah.
Those benched Pokemon. Is going to prep a Sonia in hand, and this can be a great option to get either 2 basic energy cards or 2 basic Pokemon, whichever is more fitting for your given situation. So on the next turn, Fabien is leaving themselves with that option.
A lot of lines indeed, prepping for the next turn, and next turn you even get more Drizziles into play. You can rebench the Sobble, which we just see. And this is where the door opens for Fabien. We'll go ahead, and it looks like considering it, but I'm sure we will see this knockout taken on the Sobble. And there we go, draws the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX off of the prizes. And yeah, Pedro left with just 3 Pokemon to start his turn off. Had 6 before, but 3 being taken off the board with that Avery and the knockout with the Assault Gate on the Hoopa. And this is where Pedro's got to string something together. He's going to just go ahead and get rid of the Eldegoss. You had to discard your Gossifleur that turn, which feels so bad. You already had the evolution piece you needed in hand to evolve it, but it happens. You got to get rid of some key pieces. Avery really coming in clutch here is, I think, just debating, do I want to set up again? There's always the fear of, does my opponent have another way to Avery the following turn and limit that bench? You can sort of find anything out of nowhere with this deck, so even though Sonya was grabbed, it doesn't mean there's not the cards in Fabien's hand to potentially grab something like a Palpad and the Avery again.
Yeah, the more I'm looking over these players' lists, the more it's just really seeming like this is the same 60. No doubt these guys tested this deck together, came up with this exact list, and it does look like it is the same 60. So they are working with perfect knowledge here. They know exactly what the other player does or does not have access to, which allows you to make a ton of different plays depending on what your opponent does, depending on what's been discarded, depending on what's been used already. So maybe Pedro knows, hey, this Avery's down. As long as Fabien doesn't find the one Palpad that we have in the list, I should be safe to, hang on to some of these Sobbles this coming turn.
Yeah, and you can't really play around fear if it results in you not being able to set up your board. You need to get these Sobbles into play. You need to start evolving. You need to start finding those trainers out of your deck. But it looks like Pedro's going to say, hey, I like that Hoopa strategy you used last turn. I maybe want to use that a little bit later. He's going to go ahead and grab that. And there we go. We see the Cynthia's Ambition for 8. The classic fist bump. The thing we saw here is the Juniper High 5.
Yes.
Going to go ahead and draw a fresh 8 cards here. Nice synergy there. If I give that a 10 out of 10 for synergy for both of those players. And exactly what you want to see if you're Pedro. 8 new cards because your Pokemon was knocked out last turn. Instead of drawing up to 5 in your hand, you draw up to 8. And we even see that Avery in hand for the following turn potentially. Was able to already get the energy down onto that Urshifu V. Have to imagine is looking to get a Gale Thrust off this turn. Apply some pressure back. Unfortunately, yeah, I don't see any way to get any evolution Pokemon into play. Octillery or Drizzile would guarantee that because of the Scoop Up Net in hand already. And this miss is going to be hard here for Pedro, and it's going to allow Fabien to take even more tempo in this match.
Yeah, this is a little bit of an unfortunate miss for Pedro. Not out of it yet by any means, though. Can still grab Snorlax, use that Gourmandize ability, fill the hand this turn. So Pedro can play some of these cards out and just try to reset up for the next turn. Fabien doesn't have an Urshifu in play, so you're never worried about something like a G-Max Rapid Flow coming out. So you know the worst that Fabien could do would be Boss's Orders and KO a Drizzile or a Sobble with this Hoopa once again.
It looks like going to go ahead and grab that Snorlax. Has another Quick Ball if you maybe want to thin the hand out of some pieces you don't necessarily need this turn. But I think value is that getting some more Pokemon once the Snorlax most likely gets knocked out or something on my board gets knocked out could be a key piece to have. We'll still be able to find a few cards. Gourmandize will draw 2 cards here for Pedro. If he decides to use it right now and see him signal for it, it's going to go ahead and draw those 2 cards, fill the hand back up a little bit, and action will be on Fabien now to put something together. Already has taken the first knockout, but as we know, the Pokemon trading card game, just because you're up on prizes in the early game does not mean you've got it all clinched out and all settled.
Yeah, the sign of a good format and a fun game is whenever the person who takes the first KO doesn't necessarily always win the game because there's comeback potential, different prize swings, different plays that can be made by the better player. Evolution Instance being played from Fabien. Eyes up the quick shooting Intellion, so we could see that come down and start spreading some damage. And this could lead to Fabien playing towards a Metacham play potentially.
He already has the Metacham in hand, as well as...
Oh, could do it this turn, actually, right?
Yeah, actually could.
With the scoop-up nets?
Yeah, it looks like the Sonya going to be get played. That's going to guarantee the grab on the Rapid Strike Urshifu V. He's going to want to get that into play at some point, so decides, hey, maybe now's my best chance, and can even potentially get that Gossifleur into Eldegoss setup later on in the game. Grabs them out of the deck. He's going to shuffle up. And this now opens up the door. What play does he want to make? Obviously, it's not the best to hit into the Snorlax, as Fabien is well aware that Pedro has several copies of Scoop Up Net to get that out of the active and, importantly, heal it out And it looks like we will see that get evolved. And here we go. This is the play you were talking about. Has the scoop up net, has already used one of those quick shooting abilities on the Sobble. And this is where we could see the Medicham come down with the Yoga Loop. Has it back in hand, grabs another scoop up net off of this Shady Dealings. And this is a great line that Fabien has identified in this matchup.
Yeah, this is huge. Gonna just steal a turn here from Pedro. And I mean, what a setup play here from Fabien. Is that Medicham in hand? Yep, there it is. Sure enough. Rapid Strike Energy comes down. Scoop up net to pick up the Hoopa. It's Yoga Loop time. One extra turn for Fabien and a prize card as well.
Absolutely what you want to see here. There is the Yoga Loop coming down, taking the knockout. No. He wants the 40 HP,
yeah.
40 damage one, not the other one. That would just that wouldn't be great. And you see him signal back, and Fabien is going to start another turn.
Doesn't even get to draw a card from Pedro. Fabien just gets another one, and now it's on to this second turn in a row. And this is a great way to get your Urshifu in play and kind of protect it. Not that big of a deal in this matchup since Rapid Strike Urshifu V isn't going to be one-hit KO'd anyways by an opposing Urshifu, but it allows you to get it into play when you didn't have one in the previous turn. Oh, a little missequence here from Fabien, maybe?
Yeah.
Bird keepering before evolving the Rapid Strike Urshifu?
Yeah, potentially there. It's going to go ahead and throw up the quick shooting Inteleon. Okay. At worst, right, we see the Rapid Strike Urshifu can come down. That Snorlax is weak to fighting, so something like a Smash Uppercut can go ahead and take the knockout as well. So there are plenty of options. But like you said, can be able to start establishing this Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. Can also get some more quick shootings. There are so many benefits with this deck of getting an extra turn. It's obviously powerful, right? Having a turn, an extra turn while your opponent just has to sit there and watch is powerful in itself. But with this archetype specifically, it's able to really take advantage of a lot of those once per turn abilities, those once per turn supporters that you get, and a lot of options.
Pedro's putting the damage on the bench, the Sobble that's in the discard pile. It does not quite work like that. It ends up going down onto the Remoraid, and Fabien is able to scoop up net and still get the Urshifu in the active spot, and Gale Thrust will come in. And now the pressure's on Pedro to find the Octillery, because if you don't find Octillery, Fabien just has the ability to Yoga Loop once again the following turn. And if you ever pull off 2 turns of Yoga Loop, it is so hard to lose that game, because that just takes away 2 turns from your opponent and 2 knockouts that they have no chance to respond to.
Yeah, luckily you can't Yoga Loop back-to-back turns.
Right.
It says that you cannot use that attack the following turn. But the fact that it's not a attack that we've seen that is powerful, like a GX attack or a V-Star power, means that it is so powerful because you can set up scenarios where you threaten and apply pressure to your opponent. Hey, you need to evolve this turn, or I'm going to go ahead and take an extra turn that you weren't able to take. So there's the knockout with Gale Thrust onto the Snorlax. Fabien going to go down to 3 prize cards. Pedro needs to put something on, and that is a very good start. And Avery of his own going to go ahead and limit the bench down, and Fabien actually right away getting rid of that Medicham understands that at this point it's very unlikely that I find another Yoga Loop turn. I understand that it's kind of done its purpose, and I really value being able to set up these Driziles to grab the trainers that I need later on. However, it didn't really seem like there were too many good cards there off of that. I wasn't able to find the level ball, so at worst we'll be able to maybe grab something like the Drizile, Shady Dealings for an evolution incense, and start to utilize this Octillery to grab some of those pieces like the Rapid Strike Urshifu, and you see that played right there. Going to go ahead and grab the Octillery, and I'm sure this will find something like a Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. I believe I already saw the scoop up net in hand there for Pedro, and is what you need to do. Apply pressure, start putting some damage on, and hope that you can string something together later on in the game to maybe have a Yoga Loop turn of your own. You have a lot of options. And
this is a big opening, though, for Fabien. Fabien's gotten such an early lead. Pedro's going to hit for 150 damage here, but Fabien has a chance to find the Cheryl that these guys both play and just heal all of that damage off and effectively take away another of Pedro's turns, since that damage, it just gets erased, everything that Pedro effectively did on his turn. Has the Sonya in hand potentially for next turn. There is that Urshifu. It does come down and get evolved here. And scoop up net, like you said.
He has everything right away, able to also get out of the active, heal the damage off, and next turn, as long as it stays in hand, you've got the ability to Rapid Strike Search. Do want to bring up one key card we haven't really talked about yet, that Galarian Moltres, able to power itself up quickly. It does sort of favor in a position where when you're taking prize cards this early, it means that the more you take, the more that Galarian Moltres is going to hit for. But it is, again, a pretty fragile Pokemon, so that's kind of where you got to come back to the balance. And there's the G-Max Rapid Flow.
Yeah, this is a huge turn for Pedro. Pedro pretty much deleted Fabien's bench this turn. Avery got rid of 2, and Rapid Strike, G-Max Rapid Flow, sorry, got rid of 2 more. So Fabien just left with only an Intellion in play, but is able to fill the board right back up, gets down another Sobble, still has that quick shooting Intellion, and has the Rapid Strike energy. And since Pedro chose not to hit into this active, Fabien now has access to G-Max Rapid Flow, is not pressured to use something like a Cheryl, and will target down the Remoraid and the Drizzile, leaving Pedro with kind of a weak board and going down to just 1 prize card remaining.
Yeah, very solid. I don't know if I saw that quick shooting used there. Maybe could have applied some more pressure onto the bench shoot, but you're already taking such a powerful turn. That was a big Avery limit there as well to limit that bench down, and now Pedro is stuck with no Intellions to draw cards. You're at 4 prize cards. I mean, gotta look through the discard pile, see what you can put together, but with this deck, you always need to have down a pivot at some point. There is technically plays where you can maybe Bird Keeper and then scoop up net it, but most of the time you need to have Pokemon on the bench, and with a lot of these 1 prize fragile Pokemon, this is where Fabien is heavily favored. So I think just going to go through the outs, but this is maybe an opportunity where you say, I'm very unfavored in this position. You're already almost 20 minutes into game 1. Maybe you just scoop things up, go to game 2, try to pull that out, and maybe try to play for a tie or a win. But sort of just delaying the inevitable here, it feels, is maybe not the best move on Pedro. But again, I don't want to discredit on this case.
Pedro asking if he can just bench the Intellion. Maybe I can just bench this and just go get 2 trainer cards. That would be a pretty powerful effect, I feel like.
Yeah, able to just get that down into play, but it looks like thin the deck out a little bit. I'm sure Pedro has a line he sees in his head that still makes sense. A very seasoned player in his own. He wouldn't play this out if he felt there was no way to win this game or close this out.
Yeah, I feel like Pedro's going to try to scoop up net this Hoopa, get it out of play so that all you have in play is an Urshifu. And Fabien cannot one-hit KO Urshifu. 330 hit points. There's no way for that to go down in just 1 turn.
Yeah, Sonia will get played, so most likely going to grab 2 Pokemon out of the deck, 2 basic Pokemon. Nope, actually going to grab the energies, and this is what you're talking about. 1 prize card left. That Galarian Moltres is hitting for a lot of damage. You're going to be able to deal 270 damage because there is only 1 prize card remaining, so that could be some solid damage. Not quite enough to take a 1-hit knockout onto an Urshifu VMAX, but it is plenty by all means. But again, on the flip side, it is just a 1 prize Pokemon. It's very fragile, and there are a lot of ways for Fabien to be able to deal with that. There we go. Malevolent Charge, going to go ahead and throw those energies down into play, and Fiery Wrath is now almost online. However, I don't know if Pedro has the way to pivot this Rapid Strike out of the active, and it looks like there isn't. So actually going to go ahead and commit the Fighting Energy to the active, and maybe just potentially deal Weasley 30 damage to this Urshifu. All damage matters, right? But it's not the most in this case.
Yeah, that's basically, it does set up a 3-hit knockout, right? 2 Gale Thrusts plus, small Gale Thrust is a total of 330 damage. But if Fabien has things go according to plan, this game will not last that many more turns. Fabien just needing 1 more prize card. If Fabien's able to find a switching card and a scoop up net and a boss's orders, that could close out the game here. Now, unlucky for Fabien, that last prize card was actually the Tower of Waters, which is a normal way that these players try to get that kind of extra switching effect. You can just manually retreat with the Tower of Waters into a Pokemon and then scoop up net to pick it back up. The Tower of Waters actually in the prizes for both players here, and it's the only stadium either one of them has. So without access to that, I don't know, Fabien, I think the only way to move this active is the Bird Keeper, and if you're playing Bird Keeper, you can't play Boss's Orders.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's in the discard pile, but you only have those 2 ways to pivot out these V Pokemon, as it looks like we're going to see some Quick Ball thinning out the deck once to get rid of these pieces.
Peonia for the 1.
Yeah, it looks like considering just
considering it, okay.
Yeah, has a few options. Doesn't look like there's something like a scoop up net in hand in combination with an energy to just seal this game, not seal this game out, but apply some pressure, but looks like just going to go ahead and do that. I have to know the ruling about this, but I think you have to put, you just put 1 card from your hand
right,
for one of those there.
Showing Pedro, yep, this is the 1 card. If I had had access to it, the game would have already been over, but since I don't, we got to play it out just a little bit longer. Going to put that Moltres in the prizes now and just go into Snorlax and Gormandize for the turn. And this is, Fabien using Pedro's list to the advantage here, knowing that Pedro does not have Choice Belt in the deck. Because Choice Belt would allow Galarian Moltres on the bench to potentially Boss's Orders and KO this Urshifu with 30 damage on it, but that's not a play Pedro has available because it's not in the deck list.
Yeah, and importantly, another thing to note about both these players lists they have information about, there's no way to disrupt the hand with anything like a Marnie, or, I mean, there's other few cards, something like Sydney to get rid of special energies, but that's not being played in here, which means pretty much this Gourmandize fills the hand up. There's no way to disrupt the pieces, and it looks like the doors are slowly closing here on Pedro. Is able to... It looks like the Hoopa is still down to play, has the Bird Keeper, but no guaranteed energy attachment. There may actually be a Dark peeking out at the back of the hand, but this is where you kind of got to evaluate your options. Does have the Rapid Strike energy, so G-Max Rapid Flow is now online, and we even see something like the Boss's Orders, so could maybe try to go for a play where you strand something up in the active, go ahead and G-Max Rapid Flow, but going to go ahead and hold off on the supporter per turn. You can play some other cards out. Going to go ahead and Quick Ball, find a basic Pokemon, but... there's no there.
Yeah,
there's no basics.
No basics there in the deck. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The boss stall play doesn't really do anything, I feel like, at this point, because Snorlax is the thing that you'd want to most stall. It's got the most retreat. You could bring up the Urshifu, but then Tower of Waters is in play, so you can still just have your opponent retreat and then do the scoop up net play we talked about last turn. So... yeah, Pedro's options really feeling limited at this point. G-Max Rapid Flow can come out, can get 2 prize cards. I definitely expect the Drizzile to be one of the targets, and then maybe the Hoopa is another one. Could target down the Gossifleur, potentially.
Yeah, I actually think there's a potential route where you go ahead and take a knockout on like a 1-prize Pokemon and then damage that Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. And then from there, if there's no Boss's Orders on the other side, a Boss's Orders of your own would be able to take those last 3 prize cards and take a knockout onto that Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. But Palpat will be able to throw some supporters back in, be able to throw back in that Boss's Orders could be key to be able to bring up that Pokemon with a play like that later on in the game. This is where Pedro kind of identifies his slim option to close this game out and is kind of on the fence of, I'm going to go for this. I feel confident enough. There's no reason when we're this far into the game to scoop things up and go to the next. And we'll see if that is the line. It looks like the G-Max Rapid Flow.
Yeah, I think, Pedro probably needs to target the Urshifu, like you were saying, right? And go for the Moltres boss play next turn. Because, I mean, if you get another turn, that is pretty much your only win condition, it feels like.
Yeah, perfect math to take all your prize cards correctly, but it looks like signaling towards the Snorlax. So you want to take this out for me?
Yeah, he's going to choose to do it, though.
Oh, yeah.
Does 120 damage to it, not quite enough for the knockout, and this can set up for a Yoga Loop play, potentially.
Yeah.
I do think we saw that Medicham get discarded earlier from Pedro, though.
Yeah. And,
has the Clara, though, to still get it back.
Yeah, just needs to find a way to get this Hoopa out of the active, and G-Max Rapid Flow will be able to close this game out. So
yep.
I have to imagine that's what is being looked for, but going to go ahead and fail the energy search. I think if he had it, probably would just throw it down right away. As
doesn't have it?
Ooh, looks like doesn't have it yet. Has to thin the hand out. It looks like we're going to see a Cynthia's Ambition for 3, but that kind of makes me wonder, maybe there's no scoop up net left in the deck, because
not.
otherwise...
I think Fabien did play a bunch earlier on in this game.
Looks like that Hoopa is stuck there, and this actually could be a crazy line that opens up for Pedro. At least has the evolution in sense, can look through the deck and see, but I don't see any scoop up net there left, and this is kind of where Pedro has an opportunity now opened up to put this together. It's going to be a lot harder to find those specific pieces for this turn and your extra turn with Yoga Loop because you have no Inteleons to be able to shady dealings out, but nevertheless, it's an option, it's a route, it's a potential, and just gets to go ahead and pass the turn over to Pedro. Let's see what he's able to put together with this opportunity. There's the evolution in sense, so gonna at least look through, see the options, see what cards are in there.
And something out potentially that if you're gonna play something like Bird Keeper this turn, which I think was in the hand, you wanna get a card out of the deck that isn't really useful to you so that now the 3 cards you draw are less likely to have a useless card in them.
Yeah, and the good thing here is, as well, there is no potential to just retreat and G-Max Rapid Flow the following turn. You would have to have something like a retreat and a Boss's Orders here, but it looks like we are going to see that Inteleon get grabbed. Has a few pieces in hand, like the Cheryl, to maybe buy a few more turns if you really get yourself into that situation, but it looks like we're actually going to see the retreat into the Hoopa.
Thanks to the Tower of Waters, of course.
Oh, Bird Keeper there, able to reactivate that Gale Thrust back online. Gonna go ahead and draw 3 more cards, really just trying to find these key pieces for a potential following turn. I don't think I saw anything there that was too great, just maybe an energy and another Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, and it looks like we'll just see the energy get committed to this active. Just a lot of evolution pieces you can't play down because of sort of the weird bench war we saw these turns with the discards of Avery and the G-Max Rapid Flow to limit benches, and looks like just looking through saying, your Medicham isn't in play. You can't do that again to me.
Oh,
but
can Hornet into play.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, Horning into play. It's not really a stall option because the Tower of Waters will give it free retreat, but it is at least a 2-price Pokemon that could be knocked out later on with something.
Can easily be KO'd by Moltres.
And that could be good with a Yoga Loop into a Moltres knockout, so there are a lot of options now online for Pedro, and Fabien saying, hey, I got that quick Horn of my own. Go ahead and bring the Medicham there, and there's the energy retreat, and there you go, the boss's orders. And this is going to go ahead and take out any of those 1-prize Pokemon on the bench. And there we go. Going to go ahead and bring up that Galarian Moltres, and I believe that's just knockout, right? Yep. There you go. He goes ahead and puts 2 damage counters onto that Inteleon, just because he can there. Gonna go ahead and take game number 1.
Funny. I think Fabien forgot to use quick shooting like most turns in that game, and then the last turn when it totally did not matter is like, yeah, I'll just throw the quick shooting down there on the
right. Yeah, surely.
Very well played though by both players. Fabien's able to come out on top. The early aggression just too much for Pedro to overcome, and now Pedro's going to be at a deficit, trying to fight back and force a game 3.
Yeah, kudos on Pedro, though, for identifying that line later on in the game.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because you spent so much time going for that, and you're not able to close it out, we've got a little over 20 minutes now to play this game number 2. Pedro's got to be trying to force out at least a match point here in this series, as this is where things get a little tight. We saw how long and drawn out that game number 1 is. These decks are combo decks. They set up the damage, they want to Yoga Loop, they want to take their time. It's not as much of, I play Lisa Sparkle, I attack with Meloetta, I try to take prize cards as fast as possible. There's a lot of thought that goes into this, so this will be pretty interesting. What do you think here on Pedro's side is the big key going into this game number 2 to really keep in mind and say, hey, if I can do this, I can put myself in a good spot to force a game 3?
Not getting immediately Avery, which would definitely help. Yeah, the quick Avery from Fabien really set Pedro back quite a bit. Also, that Urshifu being prized felt kind of bad, to be honest, as well. Limits your plays quite a bit more. I think Pedro just played it pretty well. It's just, it's a 50-50, right? It's a mirror match. You're 2 of the top players in the room. It's bound to be a great game. Making plays based off whatever your opponent has done. You know the exact list, so you have perfect knowledge to work with, which makes for some really interesting scenarios.
Yeah, you've got a lot of information indeed, and this is kind of where we see how it's not as important how you start the game off, it's important how you finish it.
Yep.
And that was a close game.
How you started can also be important as well.
I would say more so than the other.
Sure.
It definitely, we saw how important it was for that start from Fabien there in game number 1, but this is kind of where it comes down to routing those prizes correctly. We saw how important it was that Fabien was able to route that scoop up net turn with the quick shooting Inteleon and take that Yoga Loop turn. We see how good Yoga Loop is and how possibly defining it is in this mirror match to, if you can Yoga Loop, you pretty much can take the wheel out of your opponent's hand, say, hey, I got the card now, I'm driving this ship, I know what I'm doing, and I want things to go my way, not yours. And this has kind of got to be what's on both players' minds.
Yeah, the Yoga Loop turn from Fabien was huge in game number 1, and Pedro just discarded the Medicham pretty early on. Never really even had that option to work with. Of course, if you discard it, you can always Clara it back, but just having access to the card makes things feel a little bit better. So I wonder if Pedro can try to make room for that at some point in this match. That would be pretty nice. But it's definitely hard to set up, especially when your opponent knows you have it and can play around it a little bit, right?
Yeah, obviously it's a very unique circumstance that not only is it a 60-card mirror, but both of these players know it's a 60-card mirror with full knowledge that they know that it is a 60-card mirror. I'm sure there's some cases where one or the other doesn't happen, right? But it looks like at this point, players ready to go ahead and put their prize cards out. We'll see what is in the prizes right off the bat. Oh, look at that. We got the Inteleon and
both Urshifus.
There are
both Urshifus. That is terrible for Fabien. Fabien's only option to attack in the early game is going to be the Hoopa. It's going to be relying on Hoopa to try to find quick KOs on Sobbles. If you can do that and find an Urshifu pretty quickly, one of those guys was at the bottom of the prizes, so if Fabien takes prizes kind of in the normal way, should be able to find it, but man, unless you can play Peonia at some point as well, that's an option to try to find some of those Urshifus, but prizing 2 copies of your main attacker when you only play 2 of them is just absolutely terrible.
It's that gut-wrenching feeling when you do your first deck search where you're like, wait, did I miss something here? Did I not quite get something? Yeah, both in the prize is going to be a big setback, but Fabien was really utilizing that Hoopa early on, was going first though, so was able to easily take a knockout on one of those weaker Pokemon. Drizzle does still also have 90 HP as well, so there are a lot of options the following turn, but something like a Snorlax, even Octillery, will not be knocked out by something like that. You would need to combine it with a quick shooting, but it's going to be at least turn 3 to get that out into play as things going to start off just like Pedro likes here. Gonna go ahead and get rid of that Clara. Can bring it back at any point with something like the Pal Pad.
Yep.
Able to get that down into play and really understands, hey, I would like to get a turn 2 G-Max Rapid Flow. I want to set the bench back, and especially if you can combine it with the Clara like we saw in that other game, in game number 1, it is devastating to leave your opponent with 2 Pokemon left in play.
Quick Ball grabs that Urshifu. Gormandize Snorlax, an excellent starter. Can just fill your hand up to 7 cards to end your turn. You can't attack on turn 1 going first anyway, so Snorlax is just genuinely the perfect starter in this exact instance.
Yeah, it is excellent. Exactly what you want to start. Even has the Sobble and the Energy turn 1 and is eyeing it up onto that. This is what you want to see. Turn 2 G-Max Rapid Flow can shut down so many archetypes, and it's even as powerful in the mirror match as well as a free 4 cards there off the Gormandize to get things going here for Pedro as action will be on Fabien. What can you put together? It looks like took a few mulligans, it seems like. Yeah, has a lot of cards here in the hand. Quick Ball is going to be a great start, and I have to imagine the attack option right off the bat is going to be something like a Keep Calling to fill the bench up, but I kind of maybe have flashbacks to game 1 of, oh, I keep calling, I fill my bench up, I got Rapid Flowed, I have 1 bench Pokemon.
Let's see the moment here that Fabien realizes. Yep, totally processing it right now. No Urshifu V in the deck. Gonna have to Peonia for them or find a way to take some prizes with the Hoopa. Very tough start from Fabien. Keep calling, like, I don't even know what you grab off of it. I mean, this Quick Ball, I guess, can grab your Hoopa, and then Keep Calling can just get the Sobbles, but seems like there's some other item search cards in the hand that I feel like normally would have grabbed some of these Sobbles. Now, you're going to just kind of go with the Keep Calling, because what else is it going to get for you? Yeah,
usually you try to bluff, right? If you prize something important, not try to give it away, but it's hard to not do anything in that case when you have such key important cards that you need to not have prized. You need them to attack, you need them to progress the board state, as there's the energy down to the Sobble, so we'll be able to Keep Calling, potentially able to grab something like a Hoopa the following turn, but yeah. The great thing about Remoraid and Octillery being a Rapid Strike Pokemon is it can also be grabbed in addition to the Rapid Strike Urshifu off of the Keep Calling.
Perfect.
So yeah, perfect. Gonna go ahead and fill the board up. Pedro doesn't have that knowledge yet that the Urshifu is grabbed. Maybe a little suspicious after that, hey, there's no Urshifu coming down here. What's happening? Is there something I don't know?
Yeah, Fabien took a while to bench an Urshifu in game number 1 as well, so Pedro might just feel like this is the way Fabien wants to play things. I think Fabien didn't even put one in play until after the Yoga Loop turn, right? So that could just be the strategy that Fabien normally goes with anyway, so it becomes not that big of a deal that so many Urshifu are prized.
Yeah, it has the evolution and sense to go ahead and grab that Rapid Strike Urshifu. Already see to scoop up that in hand, so there will be a guaranteed Gale Thrust this turn. Maybe has options as well to grab some more, but it looks like it's just content taking this turn to go for a Gale Thrust and instead play that Sonia and set the board up a little bit more. Going to be able to grab 2 basic Pokemon out of the deck or 2 basic energy. I have to assume it will be the previous to grab 2 basic Pokemon out, get the board set up, and you have a lot of targets, so this is where you got to really decide, what do I prioritize getting into play right now?
Eyes up the Remoraid and the Sobble, which seem like 2 pretty great choices. I think Pedro, like you said, just content here, playing it slow, set up the board a little bit. You're still putting on the pressure. You've got the first Urshifu VMAX. You've still got an energy attached to it, so you're threatening a Rapid Flow on the following turn, even though you're not getting it off this turn. This is definitely still very solid.
And you've also got a Shady Dealings to grab another trainer card out of the deck, so now this gives you the option to completely fill your bench up, which can be pretty concerned, right? You have to remember Avery's still here, so it looks like Pedro understands, hey, even if Avery comes down, this Pokemon that I want to grab off Quick Ball seems important enough to either have in the hand for now in response to an Avery to refill the bench up or to apply pressure with this turn. But it looks like it will be the Sobble getting rid of that Cynthia's Ambition off of the Quick Ball, shuffling things back up, and this is where you want to be with Pedro, and you also have the benefit of your opponent not having full access to the exact strategy they want to go for because both of those Urshifuvi are prized. This is what you want to see for Pedro. This is the opposite of game one. You have early game pressure, and you're able to apply it and also say, I have lines, I don't have to commit too many resources. Excellent overall here for Pedro.
Pedro will choose to go ahead and fill the bench up. 2 Sobbles coming down as well as the Remoraid. Fabien could go for the Avery play once again. And Pedro's just going to play it slow, actually. Doesn't want to take the Gale Thrust KO. That opens up a lot of plays for Fabien with things like Raihan and things like Cynthia's Ambition. So I like this decision from Pedro as well. Play it slow, Gourmandize once again. Fabien's not really putting on any pressure yet, so it makes sense.
Yeah, both lines I have seen have fine outcomes. They have great routes you can take, and I think Pedro has really shown us how he's a reserved player in this matchup. He takes his time, he understands my opponent's not really threatening anything besides maybe a Salt Gate from Hoopa for 90 damage, but that's not going to knock out Snorlax. There's no way to modify the damage in this deck besides something like a quick shooting, but look at this here. We've got the Drizzile for level ball, and I believe the Drizzile for level ball. This is some classic Drizzile chinning that we're seeing here. It's just like, I need to apply pressure. I need to put something on. I need to get these Inteleons out as quickly as possible. I'm going to put grabbing the exact pieces I need off the back burner and really just try to evolve these. Plus, I can scoop up that later and just reuse them.
Yeah, I think the main reason to try to get a bunch of Drizziles in play quickly for Fabien here is Fabien has the opening to go for the Yoga Loop on the next turn, potentially, if Pedro has a 60 HP Pokemon in play. But in order to go for that play, you need to have 2 Drizziles available because you need to use the first quick shooting and then scoop up net and use the second quick shooting once again.
Yeah, and already utilizing one of those scoop up nets to utilize another Shady Dealings to grab another trader card out of the deck. And there's the Peonia. So Sana understands, hey, I need these Rapid Strike Urshifuvis to get done what I need to get done. And hopefully we'll be able to find them. I think if you take the bottom 3, the top 3, it's kind of was right in the middle. We'll have to see. So hopefully we can get a cam on these prizes here. There's the Peonia, and we'll see what exactly gets grabbed. That's actually a very nice variety of prizes there, too. You don't grab both. You have the other one is knowledge now. You know, hey, the other one's in the top 3, so if I want to take that, I know where to sort of look for big knockouts. And on top of that, you found another Drizzile too, so you could even go ahead and evolve this active one. So a great 3 cards to find there for Fabien.
Yeah, a very, very good set of cards to find indeed for Fabien. Now just has to decide what the 3 cards are to put back, because you'll know exactly where they are in the prizes. So when you go to take knockouts later on in this game, you can know, hey, Boss's Orders is in this spot, my Basic Darkness is in this spot, and make plays based off of that, based off of knowing what you will be able to take. And Fabien's been seeing Pedro just fill the hand over and over with Snorlax. Fabien says, I want a little piece of that as well. I'll use my own Gourmandize to fill the hand up and end my turn.
Yeah, I gotta go ahead and not evolve that Sobble as well. Just wants to give more options after seeing 3 more cards this turn. No reason to limit your options for the following turn, and you don't need more than you don't need to evolve more than 2 Drizziles into Inteleons. Regardless, as actions on Pedro already has Scoop Up Net, and there is the Octillery to be able to guarantee the Rapid Strike energy out of the deck. A great start already for Pedro. And now that you see that your opponent's really pushing to get these Inteleons into play, this is a great opportunity to just go ahead and target them down with Gmax Rapid Flow.
Yeah, that would cut Fabien off of the play we were talking about with the Yoga Loops. Means that's not even an option, so Pedro could definitely go for that. Could also target down the Remoraid to get rid of the Rapid Strike Search option. Speaking of which, we did see Pedro put Octillery in play, and we'll go ahead and use Rapid Strike Search right now. And this could grab the Rapid Strike energy, which it does appear that is what it is.
Yeah, I see a little peeking out on the corner there, the little 2 symbols there. Gonna go ahead and grab that Rapid Strike energy. Already saw the Scoop Up Net in hand, so it does have a way to pivot this Snorlax out of the active. And this is gonna be a big turn for Pedro. What do you target down here? This could very well decide or shape the game to be what it is. Do you really understand that your opponent has been pushing for this Yoga Loop, or do you go for something else? But until then, still has the option to play other cards as well. Even has, I saw an Avery in hand potentially. And this could be a big shift in order to apply some pressure. But it looks like Pedro is potentially saying, let me sort of throw that out another turn surprise instead. So this is where it comes down to, do you want to go ahead and play that now? Do you want to apply more pressure? As yeah, it looks like just debating which one to play, and there's the Avery, and this is a big turn. This is going to leave Fabien with potentially one benched Pokemon left in play, and no way to find those trainer cards out of the deck with Shady Dealings if Pedro decides to target down both of those Drizziles, which I have to imagine you at least are taking out one regardless. There's no reason to pressure the Snorlax. There's almost no world, but it looks like we are going to see both Drizzile get knocked out. Pedro going to go down to 4 prize cards and leave Fabien with just 2 Pokemon in play. None of those are Sobble, Inteleon, or Drizzile.
Yeah, Pedro has attacked the draw engine from Fabien, and now the deck is going to work at a much slower pace. When you don't have access to all of these Shady Dealings, you can't find the specific combo pieces you may need on whatever given turn. So now Pedro's targeted that down. Fabien's going to have a much slower turn here. He's going to try to reestablish, gets another Sobble down. We could even see Clara. It could even just be worth it to Clara to get more Sobbles in play. But for now, Fabien's just going to choose to Gormandize. Pedro feels very much in the driver's seat at this point.
Yeah, Pedro has a lot of options starting the turn off. No more energy left in play right away, but that can change very quickly with that Rapid Strike search. Going to be able to grab stuff out. We see him already eyeing up that
Pedro
Medicham.
Can pull off the play.
This could happen here. It looks like eyeing up one of those evolution pieces that can maybe be a little bit harder to find.
Grab the Inteleon.
Yeah, finds the Rapid Strike Inteleon, and this is where it comes down to what does Pedro have to work with besides that. There's the first Rapid Strike Inteleon. Going to go ahead and volve that up. Quick shooting online now for Pedro. And there's the Sonya as well, so this could guarantee the energy as well for the following turn, or also could guarantee the Medicham out of the deck as well. So we'll have to see if that is the cards to get grabbed as, yeah, it looks like eyeing up basic Pokemon right away. But it appears that it's actually not going to find the Medicham off, so may have to try to go for that play down the line later when you have some more damage in play.
Doesn't seem like Pedro is going to be going for the Yoga Loop at this point in the turn. Maybe just didn't have quite all the pieces to pull it off, or feels like it's not quite necessary right now, but does still get quick shooting in play, can start to put some pressure onto one of Fabien's Pokemon, maybe just a quick shooting onto Sobble, and then if Fabien doesn't have a Drizzile right away, you can knock it out with just quick shootings next turn by using the same one once again, and then scoop up net. Don't even have to Yoga Loop, can still just take that prize.
Yeah, a lot of options going forward for Chip. Excuse me, for Pedro. So
yeah, not for me.
We're back
my
here,
options are limited. I'm stuck back here. Yeah. Pedro's got all the plays in the world, though.
He's got the options to work with, right? So this is what it comes down to. But it looks like we're actually just going to see the Gale Thrust deal 60 damage. Urshifu did not move from the active spot to the bench, so not going to be able to deal that full 150 damage. It wouldn't be any more relevant to Yoga Loop this than it would be to get rid of the Sobble on the bench, or now the Drizzile. And
Snorlax can't evolve, though, right? So that's where you're setting that up a little bit.
Yeah, most likely we may see something like the Scuba that come down as the Avery gets grabbed here, and this is big. This now is going to limit Pedro's bench down to 3, and there are a lot of pieces you don't want to get rid of. I have to imagine the Sobble may go. There's a lot of, I mean, you have some decisions, but it feels like you want to keep everything on your bench. You kind of got to make that heartbreaking choice of what do I want to get rid of, what do I really value, but it looks like it will get played right away, so we're going to get our answer right now. What do you think Pedro's going to pick here?
This is tough. You could pick Sobble and Urshifu, potentially. Sobble and Octillery seems fine as well.
Yeah, this is a solid choice as well. I think values that having 2 Rapid Strike Urshifus to go back and forth with when you are going to slowly as the game progresses have less pivoting options to work with, and you know Tower Waters is going to stick. It's going to stay in play, so it makes it very easy to go back and forth. As there's the Rapid Strike energy, and this is a great play for Fabien. Can go ahead and take a knockout onto the Drizzile and potentially pressure this active. There's a lot of lines, so just going to debate what do I want to do here? What do I think is the best route? As it looks like explaining, yep, we're going to see exactly that. It looks like going to go ahead and take the knockout onto the Drizzile, and I believe pressure the active. I believe I saw motion towards the active with that as well. But no, actually going to go down onto that benched Urshifu V, so maybe putting some pressure on here, saying, hey, you need to evolve this quickly or I'm going to start applying some pressure.
Now over to Pedro. With a Drizzile on the bench, could go for a Rapid Flow this turn, and that means you just have to try to hit through this VMAX to close out the game, but that can be a tough thing to pull off. Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX with the massive 330 hit points. Of course, Pedro knows that Fabien has access to Cheryl at some point. We actually just see the Cheryl there in Fabien's hand. So with that being an option, it makes it very difficult and takes many turns to deal with a VMAX with this much HP.
Yeah, it looks like quick shooting. Going to go ahead and put another 20 damage onto this active Urshifu. And here's the Pionia, so we'll have to go ahead and look at these prize cards, see what gets taken. I believe that was a Scoop Up Net, Inteleon, and one other card, maybe I think Level Ball we saw earlier on, potentially in the prize cards. Yep, there we go. Level Ball, Scoop Up Net, and the Inteleon. And these are great grabs, too. You do find that Shady Dealings Inteleon, which can grab those 2 trainer cards out of the deck. Didn't find the Moltres, though. That could be a good card later on in the prize cards, maybe if you take it. But Pedro seems to be the one ahead. So hoping that Moltres isn't going to be dealing more damage later on in the game as you want to keep up in that prize race. And it looks like he's kind of content saying, hey, Snorlax, you've done your job so far. Go and put you back in the prize cards. And I want to keep everything else that I've grabbed because you are required to obviously replace those prize cards. So sometimes it can be heartbreaking to say, oh, these are such great cards to take, but now what do I really put back in the prizes?
Pedro does attach Rapid Strike Energy to the active, has the option to G-Max Rapid Flow, like we said, targeting down the Drizzile. Still puts a decent amount of damage on the active, but with Cheryl in hand right away for Fabien, seems like a pretty decent choice. And Pedro knows, hey, this last prize card is my Moltres. I'm going to go ahead and take that.
Yep, grabs it out, a little maneuver there to show, hey, I know exactly what I've got here. And there we will see the knockout onto the Drizzile. G-Max Rapid Flow brings this Urshifu up to 160 damage, so it's looking pretty clean to get knocked out with a quick shooting in combination with a Gale Thrust. And Eldegoss will get grabbed here off the level ball. I'm not quite sure that's going to be too relevant. It does already have the Gossifleur in hand, so there's potential to go ahead and get that played down. So a lot of options to work with, but you really see how hard it is to get going and move fast with this deck when you are limited. As there we go, we're finally going to see some Pokemon get played down to the bench. Tower of Waters means we could potentially see a Gorman dies this turn in combination with a Cheryl. Going to heal all the damage off of this Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, filling the hand back up. Even has the attachment as well to power up that VMAX to potentially threaten another G-Max Rapid Flow. At this point, though, we're running out of Rapid Strike energy, so you really got to be careful. You really have to prioritize how valuable would it be in this case to use G-Max Rapid Flow, or would I rather just apply pressure? Able to also get down to Gossifleur. We saw the Eldegoss get grabbed. That's already in hand. That's knowledge to both players. And yeah, here we go. We're going to have to decide if there's anything else to get played. Has the Pal Pad, so looking through discard pile, seeing, do I want to bring the Cheryl back? I think I do. Eyeing that up, as well as the Avery. 2 cards we've seen have a lot of usage. Specifically the Avery we've seen be played constantly in this matchup.
Yeah, Avery has been really a pivotal card in all 3 of the games we've seen so far this tournament. Maybe I don't think it was actually that big in round number 2, but round 1, Avery came into play and has been huge in this round 3 match.
Absolutely. It's a card in here for a reason. Very reminiscent to the ability of that Parallel City Stadium card we saw. As there we go. It looks like eyeing up the Gorman die is going to go ahead and fill that hand back up to 7. And this is where action is on Pedro. Has a lot of cool cards to look at here. Could already utilize that Galarian Moltres to go ahead and power it up. But this is kind of where you have to debate, do I want to put the energy down, do I want to play? But options are here for Pedro. He's got a lot to work with as the option of quick shooting. That Gossifleur is very weak, 50 HP, so this could also be a potential for a Yoga Loop turn if there are the options here. And Quick Ball will guarantee that Medicham could be grabbed out of the deck. I believe that's still in there. There it is. Could potentially grab that, or the Gossifleur of his own to potentially get the energies later to play, and goes with the latter.
Chooses to grab the Gossifleur, probably just thinning it out of the deck. I don't know how great the Gossifleur is necessarily in this matchup. The Moltres is a little bit weaker in the Urshifu mirror match because it's not getting you a one-hit knockout. You can't knock out. It's great. I feel like it's solid against Arceus decks. Obviously very good against Mew VMAX, but for this time right now, just thinning it out most likely. And Scoop Up Net can pick up this Inteleon, now resetting the Sobble on the bench so it can become a Drizzile on the next turn. And you can utilize this other Shady Dealings, this other Sobble that's already been in play to go get any trainer card out of the deck now.
Absolutely. Could even grab something like the Cheryl to heal the damage off of that Urshifu VMAX. Your options are almost limitless, it feels like, with this Shady Dealings ability. There's so many cards. It doesn't limit you to just an item card or a tool or a supporter card. You have those options to grab any any trader card out of the deck, and there are plenty to look through. Just checking through the discard, seeing what have I already committed to, what can I afford to commit later on, or even this turn potentially. And yeah, it's important. You get to recycle that. You now have the ability to evolve that the following turn into that quick shooting. You've already used it for a turn. You've already applied pressure, put that 20 damage onto that Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, understands it later, and it looks like it will be the Cheryl that gets grabbed here. So really prioritizing healing these up, or even going into a play where I say, hey, there's really no world where you knock out this Urshifu the following turn. It still has 210 HP left. I can go ahead and attack and say, hey, you really have to respect this to either attack into something else or understand that all this damage will be gone the following turn.
Yeah, Pedro has just an absolute book of cards in the hand, so much to work with, so many different options. Hoopa will be played down, that Assault Gate dealing 90 damage, but only if Hoopa moved from the bench to the active, which is what we will see Pedro do. Now, is there a boss's orders in hand to take a prize, or is Assault Gate just going to hit into this Snorlax, which has 130 hit points?
Yeah, this is an interesting line, because this is kind of have to wonder, like, what is Fabien's out here? What is his line of play? And it most likely revolves around scoop up netting the Snorlax out of the active and healing that damage. And your game plan going forward was to maybe go for a Cheryl. You could potentially have safely thrown up the other Urshifu VMAX and then saying, hey, I have no energy on board. If you hit into this, it's just going to go ahead and get healed the following turn. But prioritizes saying, hey, doing damage is maybe better than going for a riskier play where I throw up a 3-prize Pokemon in the active. And this will now force us. We are going to finally see the first Eldegoss come down to play Cotton Lift, grabbing any 2 basic energy out of the deck. I believe it's any type, right? It doesn't have to be a combination. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be a combination of both.
Whichever 2 basic energy you want. Super strong alongside the Galarian Moltres. Pedro's taken 3 prize cards, so it could hit reasonably hard, but at this instance, we'll just see the Bird Keeper into the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, which can now Gale Thrust for an easy KO here on Hoopa, or use that G-Max Rapid Flow and target down Drizzile and Sobble on the bench.
Yeah, and it looks like time winding up here for both of these players, so we'll get word hopefully when that gets called and when we are going to get into +3 turns, turn 0 for being whoever is turned on 1, 2, and 3, retrospectively going back and forth. And this is actually a pretty scary spot now that we take time into consideration here for Pedro. There's a lot of healing cards we've seen like Cheryl, and especially with Scoop Up Net to just take Pokemon off your board. If Fabien understands that, he can put himself in a board position where Pedro really struggles to take these knockouts, especially when you don't have access to G-Max Rapid Flow, those weaker Pokemon, or even Yoga Loop, those weaker Pokemon.
G-Max Rapid Flow takes the 2. So at this point, I think Fabien is... At this point, Fabien's up a game, right? So the way things work in a best of 3, whenever you go to time, if the player who... If it's... The second game does not complete, whenever time is called, you have the +3 turns, of course. If the second game doesn't complete, then the player who won game number 1 ends up winning the match. But if the second player who lost game number 1 can somehow find a way to win that game, then the match will end in a tie. So both players would get 1 match point in that instance. So at this point, Fabien doesn't even need to win this game. Fabien just needs to not lose. Needs to make the game last long enough to where after the +3 turns, Pedro doesn't have a win condition.
Yeah, an interesting play is actually going to attach to the Gossiflor.
Call for Family.
Like we're going to see Call for Family here on stream. Look at that. Not an attack we hear a lot.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. It's been a while, right, since we've seen a really like viable Call for Family on like a key evolution line, or that is integral to a deck. We'll go ahead and find the Metacham. And
Keep Calling is basically just Rapid Strike Call for Family, right? So,
and better, right, because it grabs 3 as well.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit better. And
this Gossiflor actually grabs 3 as well.
It does grab 3, yeah. Yep. Call for Family does grab 3 out of deck, and now Fabien understands I pretty much just to find a way to scoop up net this Snorlax, and at that point, I believe Fabien is turn number 1, so this is kind of where it comes down to, do you have the ability to do that? Otherwise, a Yoga Loop is 20 short of being able to take this, and there's no other way to apply pressure onto this, but I think he understands there's no way to win game number 2, and Pedro Eugenio Torres, unfortunately, will fall to the hands of Fabien. Going to go ahead and advance to 3-0 here at the European International